This podcast is brought to you by Blossoms PPC, your trusted partner for promotional apparel and uniforms. Since 1998, we've been manufacturing high-quality t-shirts, caps, and bags in bulk, with competitive pricing and timely delivery. Visit www.blossomspc.com for more details.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Backbenchers podcast. Today we have Mr. Abhinav with us, who is also a co-founder at GoRally. Let's start this podcast with like a small introduction about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Vidhi.
Yeah.
So, quick intro. Originally from Delhi, and always been big on sports. So, tennis was my primary sport. I used to be ball boy for my dad and granddad when they used to play. That's why I actually I guess started playing tennis myself. But even now these days, I mean, I live in central Bangalore now. Play 2-3 times a week, but did my schooling in Delhi. Studied economics at Delhi University. Moved to the UK shortly after to do my masters in financial economics at Oxford. So very much a true blue investment professional back then. So used to work in public market equities at Aberdeen. Worked in London for a couple of years before moving back straight to Bangalore. So finally, that was the first time I moved to Bangalore in 2019, and joined the early stage venture capital ecosystem here. Saw a lot of growth happening in Indian startups at that time. Also saw a personality match. I think compared to a typical investing role, VC is a mixture of you need to know your numbers and you need to be a good people person, and I enjoyed that. So spent the next 4 years across early to growth stage investing across a bunch of funds. Worked at Venture East, which is an early stage fund in India, and Lightrock, which is a global London headquartered 400 billion plus fund. While at Lightrock, I was investing in a bunch of edtech and clean energy companies. One of the portfolio companies that I had invested in, called QMath, I ended up joining eventually. So was working very closely in my capacity as an investor. Ended up joining the company around the same time as my co-founder, Sam. Met Sam, enjoyed working together with him at QMath. And at some point during that year we spent at QMath together, decided we want to take the leap of faith together and start a business here. That's GoRally.
I was scared actually. So you just mentioned, right? Like I invested in a tech. I thought you were gonna say Byju's.
Well, no. No. I mean, so in fact, at that point in time, like edtech was really hot.
Yeah.
Right? It was post-COVID, so we did a bunch of investments. We invested in Scalar Academy as well, if you've heard. So they did really well. QMath, I think, what really attracted us to the company it's a Sequoia Google-backed company. It's at its core focused on only math, right? And despite Manan, if you ask Manan, the founder of QMath, he'll tell you, despite many VCs telling him to branch out into other subjects, he always retained that focus. And that allowed them to really have a really fantastic curriculum and methodology. The platform was really good. Also one of the few edtechs that actually managed to scale in the US. So give a lot of employment to teachers in India, and most of their clientele, if you look at their clientele, was based in the US. So promising company, but again, I think what really the challenge at QMath became, after you've reached a certain scale, how do you then take that next leap, right? So everyone was struggling to make that next leap. I think we did, I would say, go through a huge phase in edtech in its journey where there was a lot of money being spent. I think QMath did the same mistakes. We came in at that time. One of the first things we were told to do was to cut CAC, right, customer acquisition costs. Brought those down, brought the companies burned down, brought it back to profitability. But growth has always been the issue in edtech at this point.
But you went from full-fledged finance bro to now you run Pickleball. So how did that switch on?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you really sort of look back at, some of the decisions you make, sometimes you make these decisions on two bases. I think one is head and one is heart, right? I think earlier on in your life, I think you're a little less confident, so you tend to just trust your head a lot more. And I think my head always said I'm a fairly smart guy, decent at numbers. Um, I enjoy finance, so let me continue working in finance. I slowly started trusting my heart a little more. So I was like, okay, what do I know about myself? I know I'm a little bit more of a people person. So I'm like, okay, mix finance skills with decent people skills. What do you get? And the fact that I was genuinely interested in like the Indian startup ecosystem. Like I saw a lot of entrepreneurs. I think the first time I interacted with an entrepreneur was or heard the word entrepreneur was when I was, I think, attending a fintech conference in London. I genuinely enjoyed it so much. And we got an opportunity to do this report on a bunch of fintechs. Enjoyed interacting with entrepreneurs, saw the growth in India. So made a mix of both and said, maybe VC is for me. Joined VC, realized that I can do this as well, but now the heart really wants what it really wants. And I was playing a lot of sport, and I think what I noticed when I came back was that compared to my experience in the UK, here in Bangalore, everyone would only meet over a beer or over a coffee. There weren't enough options for like doing something which is fun with your friends, but also equally healthy. And that used to be the case in the UK, right? Everyone had a sport, like whether you were 30 years old, 60 years old, every weekend you go out with your family, you do something which involves sport. And that meant that, even the facilities that you were going to were of a certain kind which enabled this. So I hence took the leap to GoRally to try to start something which would get like Indians also to move more regularly, play some sport and like enjoy the community.
So you did it with a co-founder, right,
Yeah.
Sam? So how did the partnership work? Like how did it start?
Well, I mean, the first time I met Sam was over a video conference call when he was still in the UK. And I was in India. I was debating whether to join QMath and who to join at QMath. And there are three different roles that were offered to me. One was in product, one was in business with Sam, and one was in a third kind of role, pseudo operations kind of role. And all the three people who I was potentially going to work with were all smart. And my fund told me that given I'm looking to move into startups, they think product would be a great fit for me. But when I met Sam, I just realized that dude, there was something like in terms of our connect in itself. Like from that first conversation, there was a Sir Alex Ferguson book in the background. I don't know whether there are any Man United fans. United fan myself, but that's the first thing I mentioned to him. And like 45 minutes of that conversation was not about, it was more about sport, and it was about like our passion for sport, and that's why I think you really connect with people when you really know what truly means something to them. So that was the same for him, and I think for him his story is slightly different to mine. He's from Jaipur, so he's come from like middle class Jaipur. Obviously a little older than I am, though don't tell him I said that. Yeah, I mean he's seen like complete lack of access, right? So for him, his football fields were mud baths. Then he moved to Delhi to IT Delhi, and like there he got some more access to great pitches. You get like at least in college you have decent sporting access, but still nothing amazing like compared to what you have today. You don't have your players, hurdles and all like you do today, right? So he used to run teams and leagues back then, right, in Delhi. Then he moved to the UK after spending some time at Bain, and he did his MBA at LBS, continued working at Bain. He's a really smart guy, he's a consultant.
I'm starting to wonder if you guys are backbenchers. You've got a DU and then Oxford. He's done an MBA from LBS.
Well, that's a good question. I think your podcast assumes that we even went to college. I genuinely, like, I can tell you this much. I used to like spend my afternoon. So in Delhi University South Campus, basically like Satya Niketan was like, I don't know, the equivalent of the market right outside the college. I'd be seen outside the store at Satya Niketan more often than you'd see me inside the classroom. And it used to piss some of my friends off a lot. Like they'd be like, why you not like attending these classes and stuff. And but that was what college was about. I think regardless of which, I genuinely feel like regardless of whether you go to college in the UK, in the US, in India, wherever, you always enjoy college, right? You always remember college. So college for me is more about like what you remember. So it doesn't matter. I mean, IIT Delhi, Oxford, all of this. Yeah, you work hard to get in there, but once you're in there, you're just enjoying it. I genuinely like, even at Oxford, like those 9 months, I think I felt like I don't remember as much of what I studied as I remember the people that were around me, and I think it says something about college as well.
Did you all have like a strict attendance policy?
Well, not one that I at least couldn't see like ways around. I mean, I think there were always ways around it.
Did you all have like any weird traditions at Oxford?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
So
How many beers can you chug in?
many weird traditions. So big on sport. So when I was at Oxford, tried rowing for the first time. Rowing's big in Oxford. So the rowing teams used to like have these traditions where basically you'd go to the bar together, and part of like the initiation into the team was you'd chug a drink off your shoe.
Okay.
So chug a beer off your shoe, and every time there's a song called Sweet Caroline.
Yeah.
And that played at the bar, like everyone would like get up and chug their beers from the shoe. From the shoe.
That's an F1 thing, I think.
Oh yeah, that's true. The other interesting tradition, which I think is more prevalent and everyone got to enjoy at Oxford, was so after you're done with your exams, the final exam of the year, you come out, you walk out, everyone's throwing like graffiti on you, throwing like, I don't know, a whipped cream on you. They take you to the river and dump you in.
Yeah, I've heard of that. That's why I asked.
That's like, I mean, I genuinely feel like it makes going through that exam. So my exam experience at Oxford was like basically a lot of Red Bull. So, because last week, like, just cram as much as possible and then get dumped into the river. That's it.
That's insane. But so you guys have just, I wouldn't say gone through the most boring corporate jobs, because that's something I want to be also. But you fully escaped the rat race, you pivoted.
Very true. I think, people, so we raised funds, right? So when we started GoRally, one of the first things we did was me, Sam, and a pitch deck, we raised around. So a lot of people, you could tell, they wouldn't say it to us, but you could tell in their eyes, they were like, why are you building in sport? Like, why don't you build in SaaS or FinTech? Because you seem fairly smart, but typically these are the markets people invest in, the larger markets. But I think to completely escape the rat race, you have to like, really do something radical. Yeah, you have to really like, I think you have to, I guess, have a really wild imagination.
Yeah.
So, I think the backbencher way to think about it would be that if sport is a sector where not a lot of smart people are actually like doing, aren't competing, then you'd think that two smart people who know a lot about sport and have played a lot of sport, understand the customer experience of sport a lot better, will have a way easier shot compared to any other well-equipped market. So I think sports always lacked like top quality talent. Like the people that are building businesses in sport compared to, no discredit to them, I'm just comparing them to larger markets, right? So as a result, if you look at the recreational sporting market right now in India, most of it is like mom and pop landowners who just have some land, so they've decided to put up a football turf, right? And hence you see, loos aren't clean, changing rooms aren't there. No, they're not thinking in that way. They're just basically saying, this is how much land I have, what's the easiest sort of way I can utilize it. Whereas if you're actually thinking ground up about building something which will actually be used a lot by people and could potentially create a sort of sporting revolution in India, you will be thinking very different.
So you're going full on like Moneyball in terms of like sports, because you're bringing so much like numbers and all into it. But do you feel it impacts how you go about your daily operations?
Yeah, 100%. So I think, you know, it's a very common question people ask us is, what's your moat, right? For us, the moat really is like these micro innovations we make, every little thing. And I think everything counts. Like, you wouldn't think about it, but the fact that you have plants in the center makes you feel a certain way about the center. The fact that there's nice music creates a certain vibe at the center. All of these little things put together differentiate you to, you know, X, Y, Z other center, right? So we do definitely think it's both those things, and also the way, like the smarts, right? I think the art of deal making is important. I mean, how you structure your um, leases, how you structure your revenue share agreements. You're not never have we gone and just reapplied a template. I think to everything we've gone and thought of it first principles and like said, okay, this is the problem. What's the best optimization for? Because you know, for example, people would say that the only thing you need to think about is occupancy. We'd say yes, you need to think about occupancy, but if a lower occupancy at a lower rate that I'm paying gives me sufficient profit, that's still fine for me, right? It's not just certain things. I think it's looking at it at a very macro level and combining a bunch of these things that helps. That's what I'd say.
So do you and Sam like have this thing where you handle the financials, he does the creative thing, or like how is it divided?
Yeah, I mean, division of roles, I think, you know, very honestly, at a startup, we are less than a year old right now. At that stage, I think everyone has to do everything initially, and if you look at us, that's how it is currently. But there's been some sort of division. So I think, you know, we have a lot of operations, and I think Sam's really good at that. I think Sam really loves getting like into it in terms of really structured, extremely sort of meticulous, has a lot of attention to detail, not a very backbencher trait, I know. But equally, I've taken a lot of the mantle on, you know, the community, the marketing, but at the same time, like there's a lot of convergence as well. So we're building tech as well, something both of us are heavily involved in and directly involved in. So yeah, I think it's a combination of things, but we really will divide our roles probably only 6 to 12 months down the line. I think right now, just by the nature of the job, it's important that we both, you know, put our minds to every problem because we're a very lean team. Right?
So you mentioned earlier you used to play tennis, right? So how did pickleball like come into the picture?
Yeah, I think I was telling you folks earlier. So my parents live in the US. At this point in time, in 2019, sometime I actually went to, you know, help them move to the US at that time. And I used to play tennis pretty regularly, so couldn't stay a week without playing tennis. So joined the local tennis group over there as well. And I go to the courts, and this is 2019, probably in 2018. I go to the courts, and there's like these people who are near the tennis net with these plastic perforated balls. And generally, as a tennis player at that point, I was like, what is this? Like, and it's so weird. Why you like, you know, because they're taking the entire tennis court and they're playing this tiny stuff, and I'm not able to play, so I was very annoyed. But then, it's crazy to think from then to now, where like,
Since you didn't like it,
Yeah.
how did pickleball?
so that I didn't play it. I didn't know what it was. So then I didn't even try it at that time. So then what happened in earlier last year when like again Sam and I were talking about this, we saw the numbers about paddle and pickleball, both these sports and their growths. And I think what was crazy was that these sports, so paddle had taken off in Middle East, in Europe. Pickleball had now become the US is like the world's fastest growing sport, and 1 in 5 Americans were now playing it. Okay,
Wow, okay.
which meant it was the third biggest activity, not just sport. So only running and cycling is bigger than pickleball. What that means is it's already bigger than basketball, tennis, I don't know, baseball, all of these sports which have existed forever in the US, right? Also, equally like celebrities were getting into it. You had everyone from say LeBron James to Selena Gomez playing pickleball, investing in pickleball. So it was too big to ignore. And I still remember when we googled for pickleball courts in Bangalore at that time. I don't want to name and shame, but we went and played at a court, and we were like, oh my god, we still have it recorded. So we used to be really geeky, but we used to literally like record all our games. And terrible experience, honestly, because played in a horrible court. And then we ended up going to Delhi and participating in a tournament. This is all during that period of time of 3-4 months where Sam and I decided we wanted to do sport, but we didn't know which sport we necessarily wanted to start up and what we wanted to do. We could have done a tech-based solution, something else. This is looking at that. Played the tournament, ended up winning the amateur leg of that tournament in Delhi. Both of us ended up winning, and like this, that really felt like, you know, engaging. And I think immediately what clicked there was, you know, when done right, when you enter, that's part of the reason we're called GoRally. When you enter a pickle court, 30 minutes is all it takes for you to start rallying with anyone. So, and that was like my first sort of change of heart with pickleball. And then I think it's now reached the point where I play more often than tennis. Like I genuinely like, I mean, I think there are people in the center who play it every day. I see some people who made it their home. I see some people who are literally like there throughout. I mean, it's almost like they're waiting for the court to get available, and they'll be like, yeah, I'll play. If the court's available, I'll play. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely like sort of really come to love it. I think what's really for me exciting about pickleball is think about every industry, fintech, think about, you know, so the way you sort of transact has changed so much over the years. Similarly, think about phones, smartphones, compare them to how phones used to be earlier. Then compare it to sport, right? It's the same old sports we've been playing for generation to generation to generation, and that's never really changed. And then suddenly there's been this influx of these two sports which have been reverse engineered to be super easy to begin. Both pickle and paddle have been reverse engineered. And what that means is that someone really smart just was like, you know, all these sports that you have today, they fundamentally make it so difficult for you to start playing that not enough people are playing. Why not just like reinvent the wheels? There's a famous story about how pickle started. Three dads who were just looking to entertain their kids, and they created like the sport out of whatever was lying in their garage, basically like badminton net, ping pong paddle, and they just drew some lines on the court and took a wiffle ball and started playing, right? So clearly someone was like, make it super easy to start, and then you hook them in, and that's what great product thinking really is like.
Is that why like it's so exciting and like so popular right now?
There's a bunch of reasons why. I would say it's super easy to start. So as a result, even if you play squash, you play tennis, both of you can play pickleball. So anyone who's played any sport, anyone who's not even played any sport can play. Ultimately, you want to play with people you like, right? You don't want to be restricted in these are the only people. And you want to be playing with your family, you want to be playing with elderly people if you want to. Everyone wants to be in. So it's like a party and everyone wants to get in. That's kind of the way I would describe it. And also I think the other reason is that it's been scientifically proven that you know, playing racket sport has a lot of, like, gives you a marked improvement in memory. It's actually really good for your health overall as well. And the ping you feel when you actually hit a pickle ball or a paddle ball as well, that has almost like a linkage to your dopamine. So it like every time you do that, you feel a little bit more addicted. It's also kind of addictive.
So that crack is quite satisfying.
Yeah, exactly, right? So those are some of the reasons. Then of course, it's also a good workout. I mean, especially singles. So pickle singles, Forbes did an article, is the highest calorie burn per hour. Apple Fitness is now like also proven this. So people have now started tracking pickleball workouts. So Apple Watches everywhere in the US have data around this. So yeah, you should see Sam and me playing like singles. Fairly equally competitive people on the court as well. and we're on our haunches after that.
Do you think pickleball could enter Olympics?
Yes, I think it will. I think purely from the perspective that we look at it in the sense that this is probably going to be a 2036 Olympics play, 2032 maybe not. But a lot that it takes to enter the Olympics. You need to have a body for the sport. You need obviously the sport needs to be large enough, which I think it already is. But also the fact that you need to make the application through a certified body, and I think right now those are the changes that are undergoing. So currently pickleball has two different bodies. So all of those changes once they come in place,
Yeah.
I think likelihood of it hitting Olympics.
So like when I was going through the LinkedIn, I
Yeah.
saw like a really nice message of why pickleball, which is because any gender or like any age group doesn't have to be like a particular body, and it's pretty great like how you framed it.
Yeah.
I think one more thing is that many times people feel quite intimidated to play sports if they
Yeah.
don't play sports.
That's so true.
But especially for you, like if you see a city like Bangalore, apart from eating and drinking, people don't do a lot socially, right? So the two things that have come up, especially in the last 1 year, is GoRally pickleball and mini golf.
Yes.
You know, these are two social activities that you can do.
Nice.
And because all my friends also, they keep saying like, should we just go pickleball? We've never tried it, but come on, like we can. Like.
No, I mean, so think about it like you're bored and you have a little bit of free time with your friends. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And you also want to be healthy. So I think it's got a lot going for it. I think also the fact that even you're playing, we've played with multiple people, including like we played with Leander Pace as well. Honestly, that game, there was more banter than ever. Like he was giving it back to us like we were playing in literally like in a schoolyard or something. Basically, like I remember one of the people playing with us, my friend, hit a backhand, and Leander's like, "Hey, nice backhand, man." And my friend responds, "You should see me on a tennis court." So I mean, it's also because it's a tiny court. You can actually like still interact while you're playing, which makes that so much more fun. Yet, despite it being a tiny court, it's not like a table tennis thing. So you're actually like outdoors or at least moving around. So it feels like a sport. So you're burning calories, you're having a lot of banter, you're having fun. You can play it with anyone. So lots of things which like make it like almost that viral sport that
Yes.
people are looking at.
Because I think social media did a lot for the sport actually. Like how you mentioned metrics, that's how even I came across pickleball. I think someone, Sarthak Ahuja, Instagram creator, he was going through the metrics of, hey, get a piece of land, start a pickleball court, you don't have to do anything, just do the marketing for it, get it, like, make bags.
Yeah, I mean, look,
It's
everyone. So everyone will have their opinion, but I think the truth is to do anything well, there's a lot of thought that goes into it.
Yeah.
You can do anything at a very decent level fairly easily, but to actually like think about a world where 5 years down the line, you'll have a lot of pickleball courts. What then will differentiate you, right? So,
Exactly.
so you need to create something that's lasting, not something that's okay. There's a wave, I'm gonna catch it quickly, and then I don't care what happens. So that's the way you think. If that's the way you think, then you definitely will put a lot more thought. Maybe you will invest a little bit more. So I know every article says 2 lakh for a pickleball court, but forget the court. There's also stuff around the court. You wanna like invest in the interiors of the space. Make it something that people wanna almost call it like a third kind of space. Like you have your house, you have your office, and then you have this third space where you can come hang out as well. To do all of that, there is a little bit more that is required.
And I think like how you mentioned, because a lot of sports people do put a lot of importance into the facility, right? Just apart from the court itself. And clearly you have to do like a lot of design thinking for how the customer will receive it. So what I was really wondering was when she brought up Olympics, is television and league formats or competitive leagues the next step for pickleball?
Oh wow, so if you had Sam here and you asked both of us, honestly, there's very few things we disagree on. This is probably one where both our opinions have changed multiple times.
Okay.
So I initially had the opinion that pickleball is not a spectator sport. That view came from the fact that I thought that fundamentally, when you compare it to tennis and other sports, what tennis does really well is when Nadal and Federer are playing, there's always this break between where like the crowd's cheering, right?
Yeah.
And these are all very distinct. Each point is very distinct. There's 10-15 second breaks between them. Pickleball compared to tennis is much faster, right? So my feeling was that it doesn't give you that same sort of kick, but equally what I've seen and been proven wrong now, and we had a huge tournament. In when you're like in the ground, you're so close to the sport, pickleball, and as a result, it's really intense. Like when you're feeling a final, just standing like just like 10 meters away, you really feel like you're playing almost. So that's definitely that. And also think about it, like the reason I was less bullish was because I thought that people would not be entertained because they'd be watching it on TV. But equally, if you've played so much of the sport, if you yourself play the sport, the likelihood that you'll be interested in watching is so much higher. So I think that's one thing that changed. Like as more people play the sport, the likelihood they're interested enough to watch will increase. But I think the real kicker, and this is where the real juice is at, any sport you see in India that has become popular amongst the masses requires one pop cult legend to come out. One player who, people worship almost, I think that's happening now. So we have Arman Bhatia, who's now like, it's just been a year, he's switched from tennis, but he's now like performed really well in Australia. Now he's going to go play the leagues in the US as well. So, and many others will also come in soon, right? So that's going to really have a lot of impact on how many people in India actually end up watching the sport. Now coming to the leagues, for a league to succeed requires some completely different dynamics altogether. It's not even about the sport sometimes, because think about it this way, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when the IPL was successful, every other sport tried to recreate that. You had the tennis leagues with Federer etc. coming in, kabaddi leagues happening, football leagues happening. But if I would ask you then to put your money on which league would have won, you would have been like, okay, tennis probably because it has the big brand names. But ultimately, kabaddi has actually done a really good job.
Yeah.
So to do that, you need to do a lot of other things well. So you need to create like each city needs to have a distinct identity. The team needs to really connect with the locals. Those are the softer factors that matter for a league to succeed. Right now in pickleball, there's two big leagues. So there's the PWR World Series, which Agassi actually came to India to inaugurate. They've done a fantastic job. I think for them, we qualify them as similar to an ATP in tennis. Tennis has an ATP tour. So what that means is there's a meritocracy. So every series you play has a certain number attached to it. We did a PWR 200 series. The winner of the tournament gets 200 points. Based on the total of the points you accumulate in the year, there is a ranking that comes out at the end of the year. So that's one, and then there's like a league format which links to this as well. Equally, there's like a new league which has come out. Bingo has actually sponsored it in India. It's called the World Pickleball League. Gaurav Natikar runs it. So again, a lot of money being spent. It'll be interesting to see what actually comes out of it. But I think definitely undeniable that a lot of celebrities in India have already gotten involved with it. I think on both sides, and will continue to do so in the future. So there's going to be eyeballs, and it's only going to increase.
Is there anyone interesting who you like, a big person who's come down to GoRally and played for you?
Yeah, Leander Pace played at our courts. So do you know Manish Pandey? Manish Pandey is like a Bangalore-based cricketer. He's played for the Indian cricket team as well. He plays quite often. Our RCB bowler Vijay Kumar Vaishak, who's now joined, recently played for India in the T20 series as well. They're like so good. They're such good athletes generally. So any sport you ask them to pick up, they'll pick it up really well. So they've been playing. So they come after their training and doing their Ranji training, and then they come treat this as a cool down basically
Yeah.
for them.
Actually, I've seen that a lot because another way how I saw paddle and pickleball was F1 drivers playing it.
Yep.
And they would play it a lot. And one of, like, let's say for example, your critique of pickleball was, I'm a tennis player, what is that?
Yeah.
But then it's weird that athletes actually enjoy it the most, even though it's pitched as a sport for everyone. Athletes are having a lot of fun with it, so that's quite nice to see.
Yeah.
And especially the competitive aspect of it.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. So if you're playing pickleball with people who play well, it's extremely competitive.
Yeah.
It's like any sport.
Is there like any other sport that GoRally is going to like dive into?
Yeah. So we just started with pickleball because the idea is when you're a startup, pick one small, fast-growing niche, rather than becoming the 2000 badminton center
Yes.
in Bangalore.
Yes.
Do something a little different. But we've now got an established brand in pickleball now. But paddle was the second we wanted to do, and we've now signed a center in Whitefield with 2 paddle courts. So I think interesting sport again, paddle. I feel like it has a lot of the things that pickleball has going for it too. But it'll be a bit more gated. It's a little bit more of an investment compared to pickleball, both on the court side in terms of how much you need to spend to do the courts, but also in terms of how much you're paying to play. So both ways, I think it'll attract a much more of a smaller niche. May not be like pickleball. I can see already it's there in tier 1 cities in India, tier 2 cities in India, tier 3 cities in India. Paddle probably tier 1, tier 2 more, and mostly tier 1. And you have to be very, it'll be there in specific neighborhoods. So I think supply for paddle will be smaller than for pickleball, but again, I think it's a fantastic sport. So both of these sports are in that category of community sports, extremely good for networking events, extremely similar to more active golf, in the sense that most people here that play golf and don't enjoy it are now like doing networking over a pickle or a paddle. It's great for dating, So we're doing a bunch of these events where we're like getting people together over pickle, paddle. So I mean, these sports are, I think, seen as that bridge between sport and lifestyle. So they can be that, and they can also be the really serious sport you take to the Olympics and you sort of have a league for as well.
So did you get any investor for GoRally while doing pickleball, while playing pickleball?
I mean, that's a great question. I think we had a rule. So when we went out to, the first thing we did was we raised the round, angel round. We had a rule that we won't meet our investors over coffee. We'd first invite them for a game of pickleball. Think back to a time when people didn't know about pickleball. Like, they literally be like, pickle what? And we're like, okay, come join us for a game. And we genuinely felt that playing a game would give them more context as to why we're so excited about the sport. We did end up getting a lot of them. In fact, ended up getting 20 investors to believe in us, 20 plus investors, 21 if I'm not wrong. And a bunch of people, everyone from Sujit, founder of Udan, and like Chief Operating Officer at Flipkart, Arjun Vaidya, who's now Mr. Pickleball himself, if you believe, Mr. D2C in Pickleball, and like founders of Ultra Human, which is a fantastic app, health and fitness application, and a bunch of entrepreneurs basically. Like, we had at least 10 to 15 entrepreneurs put in checks in us. We also got a mix of US investors, so people who had seen the sport grow like crazy in the US and were obviously excited by the opportunity here, and one VC. So we got like Bharat Founders Fund. Quite honestly, even though I'm ex-VC myself, our idea was not to like go and raise from VCs at that stage, the pre-seed round to be raised. Primarily because when you're getting to that stage where you want to understand what the dynamics of this business are and whether or not it's VC fundable, you don't necessarily want to bring in a VC at that point in time. But Bharat Founders Fund was, for all purposes, more like an angel investor than a VC fund. They're really friendly investors themselves. And we also now got a distributor to invest in us, so someone who's the largest distributor for EULA, which is the largest pickleball manufacturer in the world, based out of Tanzania as well. He actually runs a sports club, a paddle and pickle sports club in Tanzania as well. Got him also to invest. So really sort of interesting mix of investors.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So based on you and Sam, I mean, Sam's the engineer, he's from IIT, so they usually say, people from IIT tend to over-engineer things. They bring in a huge tech aspect, there'll be a screen on the code where they'll see statistics. So do you feel like there's an engineering aspect to pickleball, any tech digitalization?
Hey, Sam's a backbencher, so don't make him seem like someone who over-engineers stuff. But you're right, I think it is true. Like, almost like there's a interesting sort of tendency for people to over-engineer things, put tech in places where it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, like coming from the backgrounds we were like, can we build a tech-first business in sport? And very quickly realized that no, the sport ecosystem in India is so like far behind that you need to first sort of build the infrastructures. Now that we took the tougher challenge almost, which had all these operational challenges of like actually finding real estate, actually like hiring so many people to run these centers. Now that we've built, what we think is world class in terms of sporting facilities, we will scale that of course. But the layer on top that we're excited to build is really like the grand vision, so to speak, is Strava for racket sports. I think you can say this in many ways, but it's almost like today when two people actually like play a game of any sport, say badminton, they played last week, they're playing this week. There is zero context to these games. There is zero context in the sense that I don't know whether I was playing better than I was last time. I don't know whether the player I'm playing with is better than me, is necessarily the same rating as me. So what if you could almost have like a LinkedIn profile for your sport? What if I could look you up and be like, actually like I'm interested in playing with you because you're similarly rated player to me. There's so much excitement with that. I think there's a geekiness to it. You want to go home and you want to show it off. Like you want to put your Instagram story with, I played this game. The same way you do this with your smartwatch, right? A lot of people these days put, their statistics with respect to, I burned so many calories, right? Equally, when you played a game of sport, you're talking about it, aren't you? Like you're talking about it for a while, especially if you're like super into the sport. So when you're not just talking about it, you're also dreaming about it sometimes. So what if you could like actually showcase this and through the product? So that's what we want to build in the future. But right now, what we've started with and we'll be launching soon is we've taken a lot of the behaviors that are happening. We run a 2,000 plus person digital community on WhatsApp right now, and basically it's a bunch of people looking to find other people to play with. And when they look to find other people to play with, they usually look and ask, and there's a lot of interaction that happens. Not very efficient on WhatsApp, so decided to move that into our product. So any game you want to join at GoRally, you can now join. So if you want to host a game, you can host it there and join it via our product. And we'll also host a lot of events through the year, tournaments, events, everything from pickleball and pani puri to VC networking over pickleball.
Wow.
So all of that will now be posted on our events calendar, and you can just buy tickets for that there.
But I think the tech aspect is quite helpful because one thing I've noticed even with Strava, and I have friends who run and everything, if they've just gone for a run, they will talk about it. I asked my friend once, like, would you do a half marathon but you can't talk about it to anyone? He's like, absolutely not. Nope. He will put that Strava on the story and then he'll put where he ate afterwards. But the thing is, especially for a new sport, that would be great.
Yeah.
Especially an app, I kind of wish it wasn't such a far along pipeline dream. If it came along the next year, I think you would have 10,000 people playing pickleball more, because what people actually care about most nowadays is not having FOMO, right? That's why I got to know what pickleball is, because I'm like, if I've heard a word 3 times, now I want to know, because then I'm not part of the conversation. But what I wanted to know after this was, what is the macro and the micro like for it? The industry numbers and then...
Yeah, so I mean, look, like broadly speaking, it's still a small sport compared to the other sports, right? I think badminton, I'm talking in India. Badminton in India is the second most played sport. I think there's anywhere between 25 million players right now. And for pickleball, that number depending on who you speak to, it's closer to a lakh, right? So huge stark difference. But at the same time, that lakh has grown 5x. Like so, it was 20,000 just 6 months ago. So it's really fast. The growth is really fast, and I think the same can be said about supply of courts as well. When we started, we did a list of courts across the country. We came to a 200 number. We believe that number is now closer to 1200. And I think important to note that not just this like players and courts, but there's also a lot of other stuff happening. There's retail, so paddle brands, pickleball paddle brands have come in. Now there's, I think I can name at least 20 Indian manufactured paddle brands, or Indian brands. Some are manufactured in China, some are manufactured in India. So huge ecosystem growing. We are probably the largest player in the south right now. There's 2-3 organized players, but I think we're definitely I would say in the top 2.
Based on football?
Yeah, based on our sort of footprint right now.
Okay.
And I think based on footfall, I think because I don't know their numbers, it's very difficult for me to tell you. But we do know that the plans that we have to grow, I mean, we will be at 8 centers and 40 courts, which will make us the largest player in the south and probably the largest player in India by then as well, depending on, probably by a fair margin. So I think that's pretty exciting because it's just a year since we've started.
Actually, I have to pick on a detail on that. You said 6 months ago there were around 10,000 players. You started in Feb. So with 10,000 potential customers, and not necessarily that you capture all of them, you still started the business, right?
Yeah, because growing. So I think, no one likes to catch a dropping pin, right? You're always trying to catch that thing which is really fast growing. I think that was the challenge. Like honestly, when we spoke to our friends, we spoke to our family, they were like, it's a crazy bet to make, right? I mean, you're quitting your corporate careers and you're starting something in pickleball, which is, maybe something in the US. Is it going to be potentially something in India? Now, if you look at it, people are like, it's obvious. But back then in Feb, it was pretty crazy. So, I think 100% it was a risk. It was a bet. But it had a lot of the macro factors.
Yeah.
Right?
And what about the micro side? Okay, how would you explain pickleball to someone who has never heard of it? And what would your coach offer them?
Yeah, I would explain pickleball to someone by saying, if you're looking for something that is super easy to start, so what are things that are easy to start? I think ultimately you want something that is low intensity initially, but can get intense over a period of time. So I would say it's like going for a party, but you're still easing into the party, so it's a beer, not a tequila shot. So you're easing into the party, and you're I think in some ways feeling that it's also something you can do with anyone and everyone, right? So that accessibility is what I would really talk about. Your second question was what is it?
What would the coach offer and the prices?
So I think a lot. So I think ultimately for us, it's about the overall experience. So it's a vibe, it's a smaller thing. So the music that you play, whether it's a green, nicely covered with plants, etc. We offer clean courts, we offer world-class facilities with changing rooms, loose, parking, and most importantly, a fantastic vibe. That's what I'd say. So, but equally, I think it's also in terms of the events that we do, we keep innovating, right? So, those are the things that really differentiate us to any other facility operator in this space.
I think that's something very unique. Everyone wants good facilities with the sport. And this I think comes to the end of our podcast. We had a very interesting session with you. Got to know a lot about pickleball because it's becoming prevalent slowly.
Yeah. And enjoyed being here, and thank you both.
Yeah, thank you so much.